Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Winter Data Meetup. And I hope you all enjoying the talks and discussions we've had so far. So today we are diving into the world of big data projects, and we are honored to have Konrad Kowalczyk, a senior delivery manager, as our guide. Konrad will share strategies from real data projects filled with real-life cases from his experiences. So now, before we dive into our next session, I'd like to take a moment to ask you for your support in helping us grow our community and recognize the speakers. Firstly, if you are enjoying the content we are providing and want to stay tuned for the future talks and content, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons below this video. Now, for something a bit special, in the video description below, you will find the link to the talk page where you can provide feedback on this talk and give a speaker a badge and rate the session. Through the talk, if you have any questions or insights you'd like to share, please type them into the chat box. Our team will monitor the chat and we will collect all your questions to discuss with the speaker after this presentation. So now let's welcome Konrad Kowalczyk. Konrad, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome everyone on my little speech, and thank you for devoting next half an hour or so to listening to what I have to convey. So basically, title of this presentation is an ultimate reason for success and failure of the projects, data projects, but not only. Why I made this title, you will see very shortly, but a few words about me. I'm a pretty old guy. I have 25 years of experience in IT, predominantly in data. I delivered 11 data warehouses project in total. I'm a physicist by passion and education. This has certain implication. Physicists are these guys who are actually constantly asking why does it work like this, and what's the model? How can we make things happen? How can we things predict? So this is my background, and this is my kind of approach toward things. I have a lot of experience delivering data projects. I mentioned data warehouses, but not only data warehouses, but data projects in retail, banking, and telco. Fun fact about me, I spent 5 years of my life in Oman, Middle East. The only country starts with O. So on today's presentation, I'll give you, first of all, introduction to the topic that I'm going to talk about. Then I will tell you, the topic is basically how to deal with requirements, the animal that can either feed us or kill us within the course of the project. Then I'll give you some of my experience, how make customer to express their requirements. I'll give you some real life examples from the projects I was leading, or I was, in architectural body of this project. Then I will tell you some of my experience, convey my experience regarding requirement documentation, and then I'll give you closing remarks, because I have few really key messages. Even if you forget this entire presentation, there are 3 key messages that I want you to take from this presentation, because this may really bring value to your projects, and this may make your life easier. So let's start. Maybe some of you recognize this gentleman. Why am I even talking about such an unsexy topic as a requirement in the era of AI, right? And why I'm displaying this gentleman here? The gentleman that is in here, he is actually very down-to-earth person. He was one of the most successful investors at all time. This picture was taken from his book containing 11 speeches that he delivered at a certain point of time. Well, he passed away last year, and actually in these speeches he laid out all the principles that he was following, both in his personal life and his financing his investments. Here you can see him with his colleague, Warren Buffett. So it's no secret now Charlie Munger was behind, or they were cooperating together with Warren Buffett by establishing the most successful investment fund up to date, Berkshire Hathaway. And this is actually it's actually they were on par. This was not, one was better, one was worse. They were cooperating together. Warren was the face, Charlie was the brain. So what I wanted to encourage you is to read his book called Poor Charlie's Almanac, with these 11 speeches, and they can really bring value to your professional development, life, and investment, whatever you do. So basically, why I'm linking Charlie to the requirements. You see, Charlie has this underlying thought in whatever he was doing: always go to the nature of things. Do not be lured, do not be blinded by superficial first impression. Do not be lured by all this shiny push for being innovative. Always go to the really bottom of the nature, and this is actually something that brings value. And this is the same with requirements. I mean, well, we are asked to deliver certain data project, but if we don't drill to the bottom, what stays behind, what's the pain, not even the need, a pain that actually triggered this project, we may fall in trouble. So I'll give an example. So Berkshire Hathaway, initially it was just a factory, right? It was just a factory. They bought it back in the 60s, and when they got down to the bottom of the value, they were actually terrored, because they noticed that this is the business that is dying, and if new innovation comes to the picture, they are going to close this factory. And this is actually what has happened. Sometimes we have this push to innovate, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad for the business and for whatever we do. To close this introduction section, I just want to bring the quote of John Zachman, father of modern IT architectures, that 7,000 years of human history would suggest that the only way to manage complexity and change is an architecture, proper architecture. And here we see some sort of house that was delivered without architecture. Well, but you may ask yourself, why? I mean, was the architect unqualified? Was customer crazy when things went this way? So here is the first key message, what I want you to take from my speech today. I mean, if you're talking to customer, the bad question that you ask yourself is, have you heard what I said? This is fundamentally wrong. What is the right question? Have you understood from what you heard, from what I said, what I have in my mind? Please take a note. It's 4 places where information can be actually skewed. So this has certain consequences that I will tackle during the course of the presentation. Let them speak. How to talk to customers. So this slide presents a classical requirement collection process. Whenever I start a project, I always tell them what it will look like, what will be the process. I mean, what's going to happen, how you must prepare yourself to talk to me, and how I must prepare myself to talk to you, right? Because this is actually something that if we agree on protocol of cooperation, this will bring us a little bit further, and this will make things happen, right? So this is actually something that I present to customer while gathering requirements. This particular diagram is something that is dedicated directly to data warehouse or reporting system. Well, some other types of the data projects, well, they will have some other diagrams. Well, for instance, I don't know, migration will have a little bit different diagram, or any let's say data mining project will also have different diagram. But this is actually good to organize requirement collection process and tell them what it will look like and how we're going to operate. So this is like something that we take for the starters. On today's presentation, I'll be talking about 4 kinds of projects: data engineering, reporting, stat analysis / data mining, or artificial intelligence. However, I want to draw your attention to this diagram with this four circles on the left hand side of the slide. So it's 5W1H diagram, right? So let's imagine that you already told your customer how are we going to organize the process of requirements gathering. People are different, and it's difficult to kind of squeeze them into certain and contain them into certain way of collaboration and thinking. Sometimes you need to leave them some liberty, some kind of, they can express their initiative and they can convey things the way that they feel comfortable to convey. So this is 5 questions here: why, who, what, when, where, how. This is actually something that you need to employ during this discussion with customers. I mean, it's basing on this famous 5 why method invented by Toyota. When they were trying to solve any problems, they were asking why 5 times, 4 times. So they drill down to the bottom of the problem. And here, if we have example requirements, you can ask customer, all right, so why do you want to have this system? Who is going to use this? What is going to deliver? When you need it? And so on and so forth. So entry point to discussion might be different, but while discussing any matter, you need to go through all these questions because, well, physics stays the same. So when we are gathering requirements, we do have to have, well, unique IDs and obvious thing. So we can always refer to this requirement. But this, 6 circles are actually the next box, detailed requirement description. We need to take as detailed requirement description as possible. And we must remember why we need, let me go back 1 slide, why we need this requirement, who is going to use this, what is going to do, when, where, and how is going. How is actually something that is also very important, because if we neglect how, well, we're gonna deliver the product that nobody is going to use, right? If you don't ask them how you want to have it, right? Our imagination may be a little bit different than theirs. So this detailed requirement description is very important. And then we have some other 4 important factors. So when we already know what's required, we need to know who is approver, and then some, additional information that will tell us if the requirement was approved and what's the status of this requirement. Are we going to deliver it now? Are we going to postpone it to the next increment or sprint or whatever? So this information, organizational information that are attached to the requirements. Well, obviously, requirement source, which is important, who delivered this requirement, who asked us to do it. Well, priority. And last but not least, when we gather all this, we need to have estimation to, well, manage requirements properly. So yes, we need to make them talk. We need to make them talk a special way, but we need to collect also all this information, because requirements without these attributes, well, they are not that useful for the project. So we need to have it all. So now let me tell you a few adventures of mine during the 4 types of data related projects. And let's start with basics, with data engineering. So when you're approaching data engineering, what is most important? What are the most important or most common themes in the projects that I delivered? Well, obviously, source to target. This is no-brainer. We need to know what are the sources, what are the targets, right? I will tackle it in a second a little bit more. Then we also need to know the cadence. What I came across, the most wired thing that I came across was the data warehouse that was loading part of it like every 5 minutes. And this cadence was actually required by business. So this was not planned of the presentation, but this brings to my mind use case where we are delivering data warehouse that they were actually planning promotions in the stores based on the cargo that was loaded on the truck that was going to the store and current stock in the store, right? So cadence sometimes may be not that obvious. So sometimes we have to load data very quickly, a couple of times a day, sometimes even real time. And sometimes cadence is not that important. It can be like once a week, once a day, once a month, right? This is important to ask, do we really need this online, or what do we need? Because real time and online brings the cost to the project. Important fact, environment that we operate in. This is something that is not that obvious from the first once over, but we must ask what we are going to operate. Source and targets. Again, So I came across in my practice that, these things were kind of not ready, right? They expected me to load the data from the source that was not even existing. And this is another example of I didn't plan to make this remark, but maybe it's worth to convey. Do not maneuver yourself into situation that you're supposed to deliver a data project and they ask you to build a source, because this is killer. This is something that I fall into trouble in one of my projects. So please don't do that for your own safety. Then components to be used, well, what is important in data engineering is make user-developer connection. I will talk about this on next slide. So, well, a long time ago, I was delivering data warehouse for ING Bank Śląski. Origins of this project was as follows. They have their own old reporting system, but this old reporting system was kind of file-based, and they wanted to have modern data warehouse that will be single source of truth, and bank employees will build their own analysis. So this is original of the projects. Actually, they have very interesting case. Is new customer, right? What is very important, you need to establish proper vocabulary. This is part, this is part of data governance, but this is really important part of data governance. When you approach the customer, they didn't have this domain in order, and they were using new customer for couple of various states of customer. For one department, new customer was a completely new customer to the bank. For another department, it was customer that was inactive, but he became active. All right. So this is what you need to make sure that there is certain clarity. And a very important part is make connection between users and developers. I have this observation that it would be better if even developers who are delivering pipelines or ETLs, they can talk to users, because sometimes there are certain clarifications that need to be done, and they need to be conveyed to developer, and it's more effective if it's done directly. Another kind of projects that I was delivering was data viz. So basically, this is something that you need to figure out, that how certain visualization or how certain information should be visualized and conveyed. Who is recipient? Human factor is very important in this type of projects. So I will show you on later slides how I collected requirements, or an example of collection requirements for data visualization. But this is actually something that is very important: human factor, and how you put things together. And this is more kind of art than science, than development, than programming. So pay attention to human factor in data viz in data viz projects. And another trap you can find, you can fall into is the data is even present in the organization. So again, I have a couple of projects in my life, pure data viz, where we're just loading data from Excel, because initially we're told that this and that data will be here and there, but then we've seen that there are technical issues to connect to particular data, or this data were not the way that our customer initially thought were. So the data in data viz still plays a vital role, and please be aware that these requirements must be also addressed during analysis, just to know from what this is the source, that I was talking about when I was talking about data engineering. Going back to human factor, well, it's good to have a storyline, punchline. When you have a dashboard, it has to be. It cannot be all the widgets from all over the place with the various data categories. Dashboard must have certain story. If there will be like 3 or 4 stories to be told, well, I think it's a good approach to form 3 or 4 or 5 separate dashboards, even though they may share some widgets or some data. Still, punchline or the main topic of the dashboard, the story that stands behind the dashboard is the most important thing. Volkswagen, origins of the project. There was this situation. You remember there was this big thing about Volkswagen going on that they had this issue with emissions, right? So later on, they improved their measurements, and they want to be proof that they are not well, they are according to the norms that were imposed by European Union. So they built this reporting and around this, right? So out of this project, I must tell you another story that is not related directly to technicalities and kind of, you know, just technicalities. Don't allow to hijack your project, right? when we were delivering this project, we had this attempt. This wasn't malicious attempt, right? But there was some group of people who were very active, and they start to throw at us certain requirements of them, right? And this was kind of something that we were almost pushed to occupy with their requirements. That was kind of 15% of the entire scope, not like 70%, but 15%. But because of their personality, we have to deal with them, obviously politely, obviously assertively, to not, you know, allow them to hijack the project. So this is actually something that also happens when you are dealing with users. Statistical analysis. This is another kind of project that it is a completely different animal. Well, in data engineering, you have the source to target. This was your first, like a cornerstone. When it comes to data visualization, you have your visualization and your designs. This is another cornerstone for data viz projects. When it comes to statistical projects, it's a little bit different because they approach you with certain question. What is the basket that my customer actually is using? What is my next best action toward this customer? What should I do? Or in debt collection, debt recovery, what should I do to make this guy pay me my money back, right? So here you need to, first of all, have clear hypothesis that has to be tested, because, well, who are we? We don't know this business. We know just, you know, statistics, and we know how to deal with data. These guys from business, they know how to, you know, what they want to achieve. We need to know who needs these results and why, because this also may hint to us what method should be used. What data do we need? Again, data. And then tools that we are going to use for analysis. And here I can tell you about one of my beloved customers, Omantel. Surprise, surprise, Oman, where we employed this churn analysis because they were curious why people are actually leaving their prepaid services. So I must tell you that dealing with these requirements was kind of tricky thing, because we almost were killed by cultural factor. You know, when you're dealing with various cultures, this is, you need to consider this culture in the factor of this culture when you're talking to them. You remember, I was telling you, are you sure that you understood from what you heard, from what I said is what I had in my mind? I mean, these four factors of these four places where information can be misinterpreted. I mean, please pay attention to this. This is something that may really impact your project if you do not capture these requirements properly. What has plastic bags Castorama have common with churn in Oman? You know, when I was actually delivering project for one of retailers, they was this basket analysis, and we did the same error there. But initially we did the same error with Omantel. We just employed wrong set of variables and then wrong algorithm, and we have very similar results. So pay attention also to what you are employing, what algorithm you are employing to data mining when it comes to statistical and data projects. And now let's do a little twist. Artificial intelligence. Well, artificial intelligence, in theory, it was supposed to be, you know, self-running, self-learning thing that well, we just express a requirement and it goes by itself. I must tell you that I did the projects previous three categories. When it comes to this, I did only two kinds of the projects, which was generative AI and image recognition, right? I also placed chatbots and AI-powered requirements management, but let's go one by one. So when it comes to generative AI, requirements doesn't have to be such a detailed description. Well, it has to be certain details and certain expectations and result at the end of the day. But generative AI will generate you content based on, well, the algorithm, the model that was trained before, right? So here you need to kind of prepare a customer that, look, you are giving us certain directions. We are giving you certain high-level requirements, but we don't have much influence on generative AI because it is AI and it does own thing. When it comes to image recognition, I had this project when we were working for one ammo factory. It wasn't in Poland. And actually, this was kind of quality control, and it was automatic quality control. So here I want to draw your attention that if you are supposed to train the model, you really must ensure that customer will present you with the large sample of, and you teach the model. You need to have a large training set, right? Because otherwise, you will be stuck in this project forever. And this is actually what happened to us. We thought that 10,000 pieces of munition, fault munition was enough for training the project, the model. Well, it turned out that it was like 100,000, because, well, that's the way it was. So it was kind of unpredictable. Chatbots are more easy. Here you need to pay attention to, again, similar as image recognition, to the large sample of data that you need to feed to the algorithm that you are going to teach chatbots. And last but not least, this is actually something that I found during preparation for this presentation, that some companies are claiming that they have AI-powered requirements management or support for management collection or elaboration. I placed these three logos deliberately because they claim that they have these tools. I haven't tested them by myself. Please let me know if you do it after my presentation. How does it work? I'm also curious, right? Paperwork may save your life. Well, usually it's not intended to deliver any content or speech during the break of the session, but well, the title of the presentation is Ultimate Reason of Success and Failure of the Project, right? So, well, one message that I already keep telling you is have you really understood what I had in my mind with all these little steps? So what I wanted to convey is documentation may really take off some risk out of your project if you put proper documentation, clear documentation, and you understand each other with your customer. This minimizes risk of the project, and this actually will help you to avoid disputes over UAT if whatever was delivered, it was actually up to the customer expectation. So let's have requirements documented in paper. This here shows you an example of the document that was presented to business customer. This is kind of technicality-ish document, but this is more business-wise. You remember in this 5W1H wheel, I placed who, so this is actually a reflection of the who is going to consume, or who is going to give me a sign off, who is going to tell me, look, this is the requirement that I wanted to have implemented. So what we see here we see a sample of documentation for a measure, right? Net price of sale. We have business definition. Then, well, this is business user, so he will not tell me what's the source of data, but maybe he will know something. So it's the system, right? Maybe he can direct me. I don't treat this as a carved in stone. For me, the most important is business definition, then aggregation, and then, dear business user, this business measure, what you want to have breakdown, like for what dimensions you want to employ to measure this measure, right? So this is the most important part. This is actually starting point for my another discussions with guys who know the systems and who can help me to identify how to calculate this measure. But this is actually some sort of specification that I can, have sign off from business user and then have a better understanding of business requirements. This here is, I mentioned you data viz. So this here is actually a sample of documentation of design for data visualization. And as you see, well, here we have diagrams, here we have numbers, and all this described. All the categories are described, all the meaning of the values are described. If I want to drill down on some of these elements, also will be pictured here. And please do not be afraid to present this to customers and then tell them that, look, this is something that this is the way of documentation that we employ, and please make sure that on this graph you see each and every functionality that is going to be there at the end of the project. Because, well, you can describe it in words, but words are not that good, not as good as pictures. This famous saying, one diagram is worth thousands of words, right? And this is actually true. When you want to make a visualization and when you want to make be sure that customer is actually on the same page as you, please do it. Another story that I didn't plan to tell you was the story about the guys who were actually winning a large project within Omantel, because they were coming to customer and they were showing visualizations, right? Like mobile app or reporting system or this or that. And for people, it's always easier to understand whatever is in a graphical form. Now my favorite situation when everyone is lost. So here we see Agile style project. Well, we have an Agile project. There are lots of myths around Agile projects. My favorite urban legend was, during one sprint, you were supposed to collect requirements and do implementation and do, testing and rollout, and all within time span of one sprint, let's say 3 weeks. I mean, well, if you have to build a brand new integration with newly acquired data source to data mart, good luck with 3 weeks, right? So it is all about proper quantification of scope and in stories and epics and proper, placing into backlog. And on the next slide, I'll just show you some of my ideas. Again, don't treat it as something that Konrad says it should be like this. Always do like this. It's not the way that I want to present it. It's just my ideas, how I'm going to, or how I do it during my projects. So basically, let's take an example of very simple project like just data plus reporting, right? So regardless if it's data warehouse or it's whatever reporting system or this modern medallion Databricks, there's always place where data enters into or it gets injected to the system, which is staging or bronze or however we call it. And building the staging or bronze is an epic, but an epic within increment. So let's say that we have project within 3 increments, and we are dealing with increment number 1. Building STG is an epic for me in this increment. When it comes to next increment, I'm going to have another epic with another stories, and so on and so forth. Integration of systems, usually I put it into stories, but again, here there's no one rule, because you can have system with, let's say, 3 or 4 tables. This will be a story. Or you can have system where you just inject hundreds of tables, but they are kind of same style, right? You do it over, Fivetran or Airbyte. So this will be one story. But in certain cases where you have more complexity into staging layer, you can split the system into several stories, and it's also fine. Next layer, data warehouse or data marts. This is actually something that regardless if it's silver or gold or data warehouse or data marts. I treat every area, like a subject area, as an epic, and within this epic I have stories. So, for instance, when I have customer area or product area or transaction area or I don't know, whatever area, I treat it as epic, and then I break stories by single jobs or by processes, by DAGs, right? So whenever I have, to source certain table, or it's 2 or 3 tables get sourced by the same DAG, I treat it as a story. Dimensions like data, product, customer, arrangement, or whatever single dimension, I also treat as story. Again, with one but, well, customer may be fairly complex or product may be fairly complex. If it's too complex for to contain it within one sprint, again, I break it into 2 stories. A fact like data, transactions, balances, stocks, I treat them a story per one single star. Data marts same. When it comes to reports area, report area, again, per increment is an epic. Single report is a story, or when I have some analysis, like some, I don't know, data mining model, this is the story. Well, usually these stories are actually delivered over a period of couple of sprints because it's difficult to build a single analysis within 2 or 3 weeks time. You need to have time for experiments. So, closing remarks. What's the most important closing remark? Actually, you must figure out the most important requirement is the project might be used. This is what I mentioned to you with this how, with this 6 circles wheel, right? This is how. How are we going to use it? I have the project that early in my career that we delivered a perfect project. It was each and every requirement was fulfilled, but it was such unusable, like such difficult to use it, that customers turned back to this project, right? So the most important requirement is the project must be usable for customers. They must like it. They must see its advantages, how it makes their life easier. Second takeout. Second perfect form of specification ensures that whatever you understood from what I thought did it not bias on the way from my mouth to your ears, right? So please make sure that you are documenting stuff simple way. There is a not. It's easy to digest. It's easy to. There is no subjective view, or this is limited to the least possible extent. And please make sure that you have common understanding of things what has to be delivered in this document. And the last closing remark would be: you need to see the forest for the trees. If you have requirements, I mean, I told you about the situation where I had this team that was trying to hijack the project, right? If I didn't see entirety, I could not defend the product, and this product will be skewed, and only couple of requirements will be addressed proper way, and the rest of them will be neglected. You need to see entirety of what you need to deliver. This will guide you, and this will tell you what decision, what prioritization, what decision you need to take with the scope, and what would be your best way of delivering the scope. That's all I had prepared for you today. So, any questions?
Thank you, Konrad, for this great talk. And we have several questions. Let me read them from our chat. So the first question is, what can you say about situation when you collect all the requirements, all details, but it's not what client want? And you had several slides in your presentation, but let's maybe stress it once again.
So basically, this is actually we are going back to this 5 W's 1 H. Who? Mm-hmm. Who? So the most important stuff is to determine stakeholders. and you must make sure that right stakeholders are involved into the process, and their role may be different, because it may be a strategic stakeholder who want to make a change in organization, and you need to have time a day with him and spend enough time to collect his directions, his requirements. Because if you go to the bottom organization, these stakeholders may not necessarily share the same view with the top stakeholder, right? So if you didn't collect all the requirements, at the end of the day, you collected requirements, but customer says it's not what I wanted. So it means that you either didn't collect requirements from proper people, or they didn't express themselves correctly, or they do not understand your spec. In this case, I would rework entire scope again, gather proper people on workshops, and work on this scope again. Because you see, it's easier to change stuff when it's on the documentation level. When you are doing implementation, and when you enter implementation, and especially at the end of implementation, it's very labor consuming. It's easier to do it on the early stage.
And speaking Scrum language, in Scrum we have, for instance, a definition of done,
Yes.
right? And do we have something like a definition of good requirement?
This is the tricky. Actually, I asked also this question over a period of my professional life to several people, and the more experienced guy I was talking to, they gave me an answer. The perfect specification is the one that you and customer understand the same way. So yes, there are certain common components, like I told you about the 6 areas, like ID, description, and this and that. But you need to sit with your customer and make sure that he will understand properly whatever you document. You see, people are operating on various levels. I'm not visual. I'm listener, right? But there are multiple people. Majority of people are visuals. So if you show them something, if you write them document, if you show them something, they'll get it better. I need to hear something to really memorize and understand. So it's a matter of negotiation. Depends who you have on the other side of the table. You need to kind of spend some time with this person and really learn, really listen to what they react to. I know that during remote time it's more difficult because you cannot feel this person physically. I prefer to meet in person, but it's difficult. But again, it's a matter of kind of finding the common ground that both sides are satisfied.
Okay, I see. Thank you. So let's switch to the next question. How requirements collection approaches differ between data project and software development project?
This is actually very, very, very. Thank you for this question, because it's very tricky. So, you see, when it comes to software development project, right? Okay, so we have kind of two kinds of projects. First is project that, well, you're working on a certain process, right? Let's say you have, I don't know, application for sending transfers, right? So there are certain steps, very certain process, and this is this process factor that is not present in data projects, right? So here you need to have process. Here you need to go through steps, and this is something that you need to follow. And actually, this is something that is easier to contain into epics and into stories, because you have certain consequence, right? You need to know. This is an effect. You need to know, do steps 1, step 2, steps 3, step 4, and all these steps you can turn into epics. It's a little bit different in data projects. In data projects, you have kind of definitions, right? And this is why I placed this slide at the end of the presentation, how I break down data projects into epics, because this was actually difficult also to me and the projects that I was taking part in. So I just placed my thoughts here. So these are different projects, different approaches. It's difficult to kind of contain it into one.
Yeah, in data projects we have one more component, data itself.
Well, in process project you also
everything.
have data. in process, believe me, in process projects, you also have data. I also dealt with this kind of projects, and I see the difference.
Okay, thank you. So the next question, have you tried to use Gen AI to prepare proper requirements?
This is actually something that is still ahead of me. As I mentioned, I placed this free logo. It was IBM, it was Aqua, and there was one more. I need to try these tools because I came across them like 1 month ago. I must tell you my view on AI. So AI is a perfect tool for pattern recognition. So definitely, if we have large projects with many requirements, this, I suppose so, might be helpful. But again, before I test, I will not recommend you anything because, again, before I don't test, I don't express my opinion because I don't have one. So I need to see.
Okay, and hopefully it will help to understand customers better. These Gen AI tools. Next question. Can you recommend any well-developed documentation templates to ensure all parties are on the same page and speaking the same language?
As I mentioned, I would not recommend because there are certain common principles, and it would be. This is actually what I do. You remember when on the beginning of presentation I showed you this diagram when I approached the customers. Look, this is what is going to happen. I'm going to collect samples of reports from you. Then you please provide me with some non-functional requirements. Then I blind it. Then I come back to them, and then I ask them, look, eventually we'll have to come up with some sort of specification where you will be sure that I understood you properly. So this is my recommendation, and I showed you a couple of samples, right? This is why I show them, and you know what? I can't recall a single project that I have exactly same documentation. So there were certain common themes, like source to target looks more or less the same. You have source table, source column, transformation, target table, target column. These 5 elements are in each and every source to target. Well, there is also some comments. There are also some other columns, but these 5 are the king. When I showed you documentation of measures, there's always title or name of the measure. There's always business definition. There's always dimensions. But from time to time, there is no aggregations, or maybe there is an aggregation, or maybe there are some additional descriptions. It's always good to approach one by one. There are some common components. I can't recommend you any templates present in the somewhere in the internet. Maybe it's actually a good idea. Maybe I'll create a site like this to make it available from my experience.
Good startup idea.
Good.
Okay, thank you. So the next question. Can you describe a challenging data project that seemed to be heading towards failure with a difficult client, where you were able to successfully turn things around by transforming a low-scoring outcome into a victory?
Yes. So actually, this Omantel project, this was the project where I kind of made a difference. So there was an entire history behind this project. When I landed on site, I noticed several, again, I don't want to dive into details for a number of reasons, but I can tell you what was my contribution. So when I landed on site, I noticed that there are several things missing, especially around requirements, but also some technical stuff was not there. So how I fix it? Through communication with customer, and I also brought some very brilliant guys from my professional network to turn things around. And from project that was going to failure, we eventually delivered, and the customer was happy. So this was project number 1. Another project I can think of was actually a case that I was talking about, this ING Bank Śląski. So I took over this project from another architect, and the foundation was very well done. right? And this is very well prepared. But there were some little tweaks that I introduced. Maybe it wasn't low score, but again, I boosted productivity. I noticed that people who are developing ETLs, they didn't know for whom they are developing these ETLs, and they have multiple questions, and they were making assumptions. So I approached these guys and say, look, we are sitting on floor number 2 in Katowice, in the headquarters, ING headquarters, but this guy sits on floor number 5, right? And we have access to him. So let's go for a coffee. You guys, meet. You guys talk, and your questions will be answered, right? And this is what I did, one by one. And eventually, I made a situation when my presence was not even required, because these guys were talking, directly, and this made a huge difference, huge difference. So make people talk to each other, make them communicate. They will do the job. They are smart human beings.
So the main takeaway from this session is to be on the same page with customers and speak same language and communicate, right?
Well said. Well said. This was actually a good summary.
Okay, I don't think we have more time to answer other questions, but we will continue answering them in the chat on YouTube channel. So I think that concludes our session. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope you found this session insightful and inspiring. And thank you very much, Konrad, for coming. We couldn't do this talk without you. This is a great
Thank you for having me.
In this video description below, you will find the link to the talk page where you can provide feedback on this talk, give speaker a badge, and rate this session. And your feedback helps us to improve future events and recognizes the hard work of our speakers. Additionally, if you like to revisit it, you can download the presentations on talk page and check the video description for the link. Once again, thank you all for your participation, engagement, and support. And we look forward to seeing you at our next sessions. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring the exciting world of data. Goodbye for now, and have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.